Well, let's go now to the G20 Summit and that bilateral meeting that took place in the margins late last night between Anthony Albanese and China's President Xi. Looming large over the whole summit, of course, is Donald Trump. He's not there, but his election matters and what it means for trade in particular, front and centre. However, the Prime Minister says Donald Trump was not part of their discussion.
With President Xi, did you sort of speak either directly or indirectly about Donald Trump's tariff plans, and you sort of agreed position that they're not a good idea? Did that come up?
No.
I don't know that I really believe all of that. Come on, Anthony Albanese. Let's bring in my China hawk, Sky News contributor Chris Uhlmann. Chris, welcome to the program yet again. We'll get to your magnificent doco. I can't wait to watch it at 8 o'clock in a moment. But what did you make of the readout of that meeting? I mean, sure, Trump's name might not have been explicitly mentioned in the room, but by God, he would have loomed large.
Oh, Peter, he looms over the world at the moment. He's threatening 60% tariffs against China. He said his favourite word is tariff, and so that can't help but spark a trade war. But I'm going to walk through this and see if I get anything wrong when it comes to China talking about free trade. So you might recall back in 2020 there was a small problem with a disease that threatened to upend the entire world. Shut Australia down for the better part of 2 years. We spent about $500 billion trying to fix it. And at some point early on we said we'd like to have a little bit more information from China about the origins of this disease, given all of the effects it's having on us. In response, China then decided to hit us with trade sanctions, which were illegal, and it waited until that government was gone. And then over a long period of time, as this government has shown that it's sticking to the kind of behaviour that China likes to see, it has gradually unwound those sanctions that it put in up against Australia, and we are supposed to take this as progress. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, but that's the way it appears to me.
I don't know why he can't deal with the difficult defence and strategic issues, the human rights issues and trade. I mean, I sat in the room with President Xi in Beijing and in other forums with the Prime Minister at the time, Tony Abbott. He raised some really difficult, tough issues. Of course he did, but he managed to get that free trade deal over the line. Why is Albanese all one and not the other? Why does he kowtow when he's effusive in the imagery we see when he meets with Xi? What is it with Labor and China?
Well, Peter, I'm unsure about that. I do know that they do believe that there had to be some normalisation of the relationship with China. It is our major trading partner, so I can understand why you would want to normalise that trade. But I would have thought that the starting position for Australia with an incoming government would be, you unwind all those sanctions first, and then we'll talk. I mean, I think there's an iron law when it comes to international politics, and that is that nobody respects anyone who is weak. And it would appear to me today, even from the language that we heard from Xi Jinping in that meeting, that he was telling Anthony Albanese that we've had some rocky times in the past, things are okay at the moment, just you behave and everything will be just dandy.
It's embarrassing, though, when China holds out Australia, calls him handsome boy, that's one thing, and that's a pat on the head, that's about as poor as it gets in diplomatic terms, but then holds out Australia and says to the rest of the world, you need to treat us like our lickspittle Australia does. We want you all to kowtow like Australia. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but I don't think I'd want to be praised by President Xi at the moment.
No, you were paraphrasing what was in the China Daily, and that was pretty much it, is that the other world leaders could learn something from the behaviour of Anthony Albanese. Now, I'm sure that Anthony Albanese hated that because what it looked like to me was him being put in his place and told him that as long as he keeps behaving, then he will be rewarded by China, but could also be punished if he doesn't. It makes him look completely like some kind of vassal.
I want to play a comment from Stephen Conroy, former Labor frontbencher, as you know. He said this today about this meeting and the relationship with my colleague Kieran Gilbert.
Let no one be fooled by this diplomatic push by Xi. China will not obey the international rules-based order, and they will use it any way they can to put pressure on people. So don't be fooled.
And I want to contrast our Prime Minister's approach with the approach of the UK Prime Minister, also a Labor Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, in their opening remarks with Xi. Have a listen.
Let me express as well my appreciation for your tremendous hospitality when I visited Beijing last year, and where we have recommenced our leader-to-leader meetings.
Okay, and here's Keir Starmer.
We are concerned by reports of Jimmy Lai's deterioration, health in prison. You raised the Chinese embassy building in London when we spoke on the telephone, and we have since taken action by calling in that application. Now we have to follow the legal process and timeline.
And you can see that the media, of course, is ushered out of the room. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, well, I think that there's nothing to be lost being very clear about where you stand, and I don't think that countries respect you if you are seen to be weak. Now, I do understand why the Albanese government would want to have better relations with China. The Morrison government did go particularly hard, but can I say, there are many criticisms of that government, but I don't think that its attitude at that particular time on China was the wrong one, and it created the strategic space in which Anthony Albanese could move. My fear is that the Chinese have read this as weakness and that they will be demanding more of it in future.